The television studio lights burned bright as Bruce Lee stood on the set of The Pierre Berton Show in 1971. Across from him sat martial arts champion Victor Moore, a man who just publicly declared that Bruce Lee was all flash, no substance. The cameras rolled as Moore leaned forward with a smirk and said, "Mr. Lee, I've heard you can punch faster than the camera can capture. Sounds like Hollywood magic to me." Bruce smiled calmly, his eyes never leaving Moore's face. "Would you like me to demonstrate?" he asked quietly. What happened in the next 60 seconds would shock the martial arts world and create footage so incredible that people still debate its authenticity today. Before we dive into this amazing story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these inspiring moments from history. Who was Bruce Lee? Bruce Lee wasn't just another martial artist trying to make it in Hollywood. Born in San Francisco in 1940 and raised in Hong Kong, Bruce had spent his entire life perfecting the art of combat. By age 13, he was studying Wing Chun under the legendary master Ip Man. By 18, he'd already fought in over a dozen street fights, learning lessons that no training hall could teach. When Bruce returned to America in 1959, he brought with him a philosophy that would change martial arts forever. He didn't just want to learn traditional forms. He wanted to understand the science behind every movement, the psychology behind every strike, the split-second timing that separated masters from pretenders. The problem? Hollywood's disbelief. By 1971, Bruce had already created his own martial art called Jeet Kune Do, which meant the way of the intercepting fist. He'd opened martial arts schools in Seattle, Oakland, and Los Angeles. He'd trained some of Hollywood's biggest stars, including Steve McQueen and James Coburn. But there was one massive problem that followed him everywhere. Nobody believed his speed was real. Fight choreographers thought his movements were too fast for audiences to appreciate. Movie directors asked him to slow down because the camera couldn't capture his strikes properly. Traditional martial artists from established schools whispered that his techniques were just circus tricks designed for entertainment, not real combat. The challenge takes shape. The situation reached a breaking point during a martial arts demonstration in Long Beach, California. Bruce had been invited to showcase Jeet Kune due to an audience of traditional martial artists. When he demonstrated his famous one-inch punch, launching a volunteer backward several feet using almost no visible wind-up, the crowd erupted in arguments. "It's staged," someone shouted from the audience. "The volunteer is obviously cooperating," another voice added. Victor Moore, a respected karate champion with multiple tournament victories, stood up in the audience. "Mr. Lee," he said loudly, "your demonstrations are impressive entertainment, but in a real fight, against a real opponent who's not cooperating with your performance, could you actually land these so-called invisible strikes?" The challenge was clear. The audience fell silent, waiting for Bruce's response. Bruce looked at Moore with that calm intensity that would later become his trademark on film. "My friend," he said quietly, "martial arts is not about proving yourself to skeptics. It's about honest self-expression. But if you truly want to understand, I invite you to test it yourself." That invitation led to Bruce being booked on The Pierre Berton Show, a popular Canadian talk show, where he would face Moore again. This time, with cameras rolling and a live audience watching, Bruce would have to prove that his legendary speed wasn't just clever editing or staged performances. The show's producers loved controversy. They promoted the appearance as a showdown between traditional martial arts and Bruce's innovative approach. Newspaper ads proclaimed, "Can Bruce Lee really move faster than the human eye? Or is it all Hollywood magic? Watch the truth revealed live." The personal stakes. For Bruce, this wasn't just about defending his reputation. His young son Brandon was watching these challenges unfold. Bruce often spoke about setting an example of integrity and authenticity. If he couldn't prove his abilities were genuine, everything he taught about honest self-expression in martial arts would be questioned. Moreover, Bruce had dreams of breaking into mainstream Hollywood movies, not just as a martial arts choreographer, but as a leading actor. In 1971, Asian actors faced enormous prejudice in American entertainment. Bruce was fighting not just for himself, but for every Asian performer who'd been told they could only play stereotypical roles. His speed, his power, his innovation, These were his weapons against an industry that saw him as exotic rather than extraordinary. As the show date approached, the pressure mounted. Training partners noticed Bruce practicing one specific technique over and over. A straight punch from a relaxed position thrown with explosive speed, then immediately retracted. He was preparing to demonstrate something that would silence the doubters once and for all. The studio confrontation begins. The Pierre Berton Show studio felt different that day. The usual relaxed atmosphere of a talk show had been replaced by tension you could cut with a knife. Camera operators positioned their equipment carefully, knowing they needed to capture whatever was about to happen. Studio audience members leaned forward in their seats, aware they were about to witness something unusual. Victor Moore arrived first, dressed in his traditional karate uniform, his black belt prominently displayed. He'd brought several supporters from his school, students who believed their teacher would expose Bruce Lee as a fraud. They whispered confidently among themselves, certain that slow-motion cameras would reveal that Bruce's famous speed was just clever angles and cooperative opponents. When Bruce entered wearing simple black pants and a black Chinese-style shirt, the contrast was striking. Moore looked like a warrior ready for battle. Bruce looked like he was meeting friends for tea. But those who knew him recognized the signs. His movements were economical, his breathing was controlled, and his eyes had that focused intensity that appeared before every demonstration. Pierre Berton, the show's host, sensed the tension and decided to address it directly. "Gentlemen," he began after the standard introductions, "we've received numerous letters from viewers questioning whether Mr. Lee's martial arts demonstrations are genuine combat techniques or carefully choreographed performances. Mr. Moore, you've been particularly vocal about your skepticism. Would you care to explain your position?" Moore nodded, standing up to address the camera. "Mr. Berton, I have tremendous respect for all martial arts traditions. However, Mr. Lee makes claims that seem to defy physics. He says he can strike so fast that cameras miss the movement. He claims he can generate tremendous power from a distance of just 1 inch. These sound like magic tricks, not martial arts." He turned to face Bruce directly. "In my 20 years of training, I've fought in over 100 tournaments. I've never seen anything that looked like Mr. Lee's demonstrations outside of staged performances. I believe he's simply very good at making prepared volunteers react dramatically to ordinary techniques." The deepening conflict. Bruce listened patiently, his expression never changing. When Moore finished, Bruce spoke quietly, his accent blending Hong Kong Cantonese with American English in a way that was uniquely his own. "Mr. Moore, you make reasonable points based on your experience. Traditional tournament fighting follows certain rules designed for safety and sport. What I teach is different. It's about the actual mechanics of combat, about understanding the body's potential when freed from artificial constraints." He stood up, demonstrating as he spoke. "In traditional martial arts, you learn forms, specific patterns of movement practiced the same way for hundreds of years. This has value for discipline and cultural preservation. But in actual combat, there are no forms. There is only the most direct, most efficient response to each moment." Pierre Berton, sensing good television, pushed harder. "But Mr. Lee, Mr. Moore's point is valid. How can we know these techniques actually work if we can't see them clearly? If your strikes are too fast for cameras to capture, isn't that convenient for avoiding verification?" Bruce smiled, but there was steel behind it. "This is exactly why I agreed to come here today. You have professional camera equipment. You can film at different speeds. I propose a simple test that will answer all questions about whether my speed is real or illusion. The technical challenge." He walked to the center of the studio, positioning himself in front of the main camera. "I will demonstrate a straight punch from a relaxed standing position. The camera will film at normal speed first, then we'll review it. If your equipment can capture my full movement clearly, then Mr. Moore is correct. My speed is ordinary, and I've been relying on cooperative demonstrations. But," Bruce continued, his voice carrying absolute confidence, "if the camera at normal speed cannot capture the complete movement, we'll film again at high speed. Then everyone can judge for themselves whether physics is being defied or simply better understood." The studio director, excited by the dramatic setup, quickly called for adjustments. Additional cameras were positioned at multiple angles. The high-speed camera typically used for special effects was prepared. This was expensive equipment rarely used for talk shows, but the director sensed they were about to capture something worth the cost. Victor Moore stood off to the side, arms crossed, his expression skeptical but slightly uncertain. He'd expected Bruce to make excuses or dodge direct testing. This willingness to be filmed from multiple angles, with equipment that would reveal any trickery, was not what he'd anticipated. The moment of doubt. Before the cameras rolled, Pierre Berton asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Mr. Lee, if this demonstration doesn't work as you claim, if the cameras clearly show ordinary speed, what will that mean for your reputation and your teaching?" For the first time that day, Bruce's confident expression flickered. This was the moment of vulnerability that made the story human. He thought about his students who'd invested time and money learning his methods. He thought about his son Brandon watching at home. He thought about every Asian performer struggling to be taken seriously in Hollywood. "Mr. Berton," Bruce said quietly, "I have spent my entire life pursuing one question. What is truth in combat? Not the truth that looks impressive in demonstrations. Not the truth that wins trophies in tournaments with rules. But the actual truth of what the human body can achieve when properly trained and freed from artificial limitations." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "If I'm wrong, if my understanding of speed and power is somehow mistaken, then I need to know that truth as well. That's what martial arts truly means. Honest self-expression and constant questioning of what you think you know." The studio fell completely silent. Even Moore seemed moved by the sincerity in Bruce's voice. This wasn't a showman protecting his act. This was a genuine martial artist, willing to risk everything for honest demonstration of his art. Building to the test. The cameras were positioned. The lighting was adjusted. Pierre Berton stood behind the main camera with the director, both men understanding they were about to witness something unusual. Victor Moore positioned himself where he could see Bruce's movements clearly, determined to spot any trickery. Bruce stood in a relaxed stance, his right hand hanging naturally at his side. To the untrained eye, he looked almost casual, like someone waiting for a bus rather than preparing to demonstrate explosive power. "I will throw a straight punch directly forward," Bruce explained for the camera. "I will not wind up. I will not telegraph the movement. I will simply extend my fist as fast as I physically can, then immediately retract it. Watch my shoulder, my hip, my fist. If you can clearly see all three elements of the movement at normal camera speed, then Mr. Moore wins this debate." The director called out. "Rolling on all cameras. Speed set to normal 24 frames per second. And action when you're ready, Mr. Lee." Bruce took one breath. Just one. And then he moved. The impossible becomes visible. What happened next became one of the most analyzed pieces of martial arts footage in history. Bruce's right arm moved forward in what appeared to be a slight blur, then instantly returned to its original position. The entire movement, extension and retraction, took less time than a single camera frame could capture clearly. The studio director immediately called, "Cut!" Not because anything had gone wrong, but because he'd been watching his monitor and couldn't believe what he'd just seen. Or rather, what he hadn't seen. "Play that back," he commanded his technical crew. On the studio monitors, everyone watched the replay. Bruce stood in his relaxed position. Then there was a single frame where his arm appeared slightly blurred. Then he was back in the original position. The punch itself, the actual extension and full power delivery, was completely invisible to the camera operating at normal speed. "That's impossible," one of the camera operators whispered. "We're filming at 24 frames per second. That means we're capturing images every 0.04 seconds. His entire punch happened faster than that." Victor Moore stepped closer to the monitor, his expression transforming from skepticism to genuine shock. "Play it again," he demanded, his voice no longer carrying the confident mockery from earlier. They replayed the footage 5 times. Each viewing showed the same thing. Bruce in position, a blur, Bruce in position again. The full movement of what should have been a visible punch had somehow occurred faster than the camera's ability to record distinct images. The high-speed revelation. "Okay," Pierre Berton said, his professional composure barely maintained. "Let's film this with the high-speed camera. We need to see what actually happened." The high-speed camera was positioned directly in front of Bruce. This equipment could capture 120 frames per second, 5 times the detail of normal filming. If there was any trickery, any way that Bruce was somehow fooling regular cameras, the high-speed footage would reveal it completely. Bruce resumed his position. The tension in the studio had completely changed. Moore's supporters were no longer whispering confidently. The studio crew was gathering around monitors, professional curiosity overwhelming their usual protocol. Even Pierre Berton abandoned his host position to watch the technical screens. "High-speed camera rolling," the director announced. And, action. Bruce moved again. This time, to those watching in real time, they could perceive slightly more detail, a sense of his arm moving rather than just appearing in a different position. But it was still impossibly fast, still beyond what human reflexes should be able to produce or control. The playback, however, was a revelation. Slowed to 1/5 speed, the footage showed something that changed everyone's understanding of what human bodies could achieve. Bruce's punch began with an almost imperceptible shift in his weight, a subtle rotation of his hip that generated momentum. This transferred through his core to his shoulder in a wave of coordinated muscle activation. His arm extended not with muscular forcing but with whip-like release of stored elastic energy. The fist traveled forward in a perfectly straight line, no wasted motion, no telegraphing, achieving full extension in what the high-speed playback showed was approximately 0.05 seconds, faster than the average person's blink reflex. Then, incredibly, the retraction happened even faster, the arm snapping back like a released spring. The mathematical truth. One of the show's technical crew, a physics enthusiast, quickly did the calculations. If the high-speed camera is showing his fist moved approximately 24 inches in 0.05 seconds, that means his hand was traveling at about 28 miles per hour. And the retraction was even faster. He looked up from his notepad, his expression amazed. That's similar to the strike speed of a cobra. A cobra. He's generated reptilian-level striking speed through pure human biomechanics. Victor Moore stood frozen, watching the slow-motion replay over and over. You could see the exact moment his worldview shifted. Everything he'd been taught about proper punch technique, the wind-up, the visible telegraph, the chambered position Bruce had eliminated. Every unnecessary movement had been stripped away, leaving only pure efficiency. Moore started to speak then stopped. Professional pride warred with intellectual honesty. Finally, honesty won. "I was wrong." The studio audience erupted in applause, not because anyone had been humiliated, but because they'd all witnessed something genuinely remarkable. Bruce hadn't just proven his speed was real. He'd demonstrated that human potential was far greater than conventional martial arts wisdom suggested. The graceful victory. Bruce walked over to Victor Moore, extending his hand. "Mr. Moore, you were not wrong to be skeptical. Skepticism is how we find truth. You pushed me to demonstrate clearly without room for doubt. That made both of us better martial artists today." Moore shook his hand, and you could see genuine respect replacing his earlier antagonism. Would you be willing to teach me how you develop this technique? My students deserve to learn from someone who understands movement at this level." Pierre Berton, recognizing the perfect conclusion to his show, stepped between them for the camera. "Gentlemen, we've just witnessed something extraordinary. Mr. Lee, you've proven that your techniques aren't Hollywood magic. They're real, measurable, and apparently based on biomechanics that exceed conventional understanding. What do you say to viewers who still might doubt what we've shown?" Bruce looked directly into the camera, his expression serious but not arrogant. "I say this, the limits of what humans can achieve are not fixed. They are constantly being redefined by people willing to question what everyone knows is impossible. Today we measured one small example. Tomorrow someone will exceed even this. That is the true way. Constant growth, constant questioning, constant honest expression of potential." The immediate aftermath. The footage from the Pierre Berton show became legendary in martial arts communities worldwide. Copies were made and shared, analyzed frame by frame in training halls from Tokyo to Los Angeles. Biomechanics researchers at universities requested access to study Bruce's technique. Sports science programs began investigating how martial artists could apply similar principles to other athletic movements. But the impact went far beyond martial arts. The demonstration proved something that mattered in every field. Conventional wisdom about human limits is often just accumulated assumptions that nobody has properly challenged. Bruce hadn't broken the laws of physics. He'd simply understood and applied them better than people thought possible. Victor Moore became one of Bruce's most dedicated students. He closed his traditional school and spent months learning Jeet Kune Do, eventually integrating these principles into a new teaching method that honored his karate roots while embracing Bruce's innovations. Years later, Moore would say, "That day on television, Bruce didn't just prove his techniques worked. He proved that being wrong and learning from it is more valuable than being right and learning nothing." The Hollywood transformation. The television demonstration changed how Hollywood viewed Bruce Lee. Directors who'd asked him to slow down for cameras now realized his speed was an asset, not a problem. They began designing fight scenes specifically to showcase his abilities. High-speed cameras became standard equipment on his film sets, used to capture and then slow down movements that normal filming couldn't adequately display. This led directly to Bruce's breakthrough role in The Big Boss, and eventually to Enter the Dragon, the film that would introduce him to worldwide audiences. The fight choreography in these movies, the explosive strikes, the minimal telegraphing, the snake-like speed, all traced back to the principles he'd proven real on Canadian television. The deeper philosophy. But Bruce's most important lesson wasn't about physical speed. It was about intellectual speed, the ability to rapidly perceive truth, adapt to new information, and evolve beyond comfortable assumptions. In interviews after the demonstration, Bruce often emphasized this point. The fastest punch means nothing if your mind is slow. Speed of body follows speed of perception. When you truly see clearly without prejudice or assumption, your responses become naturally immediate. This philosophy influenced everyone who studied with him. Steve McQueen became a better actor by learning to react authentically rather than acting. James Coburn developed fight choreography that emphasized realistic efficiency over dramatic flourishes. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar incorporated Bruce's principles into basketball, using minimal telegraph movements to become virtually unblockable. The universal application. The lesson extends far beyond martial arts or entertainment. In business, the leaders who succeed are those who can perceive market changes faster than competitors and respond with minimal wasted motion. In science, breakthrough discoveries come from researchers who question conventional wisdom and test assumptions everyone else accepts without examination. In personal life, the principle remains the same. What limitations do you accept simply because everyone agrees they're limitations? What could you achieve if you approached problems with Bruce's mindset, questioning everything, testing directly, and refusing to accept that impossible means anything more than nobody has figured out how yet? The legacy continues. Bruce Lee passed away tragically young in 1973, just 2 years after that television demonstration. He was only 32 years old, but his impact continues decades later because he proved something that transcends martial arts. Human potential is not fixed. It's a frontier constantly being expanded by those brave enough to challenge what everyone knows is impossible. Today, mixed martial artists study his training methods. Biomechanics researchers reference his techniques in papers about optimal force generation. Film schools analyze his fight choreography as examples of how to visually communicate speed and power. And martial arts students worldwide practice Jeet Kune Do, keeping alive the philosophy that honest self-expression and constant questioning create real growth. The final wisdom. Perhaps Bruce's most profound lesson came in a later interview when someone asked him about the secret to his legendary speed. His answer revealed everything about his character and philosophy. "I don't try to be fast," Bruce explained. "I try to eliminate slowness. Most people are slow because they carry unnecessary movements, unnecessary tension, unnecessary thoughts. Remove the unnecessary, and what remains is naturally quick. Remove falsehood, and what remains is naturally true. Remove pretense, and what remains is naturally authentic. Be like water, my friend," he famously said. "Water is the softest substance in the world, yet it can penetrate the hardest rock. It has no shape of its own, yet it takes the shape of any container. It appears weak, yet it possesses the power to carve canyons." This is the lesson. The most adaptable, the most honest, the most direct path is ultimately the most powerful. That television demonstration in 1971 wasn't just about proving one man's speed was real. It was about proving that questioning assumptions, testing directly, and remaining open to truth wherever it leads will always reveal new possibilities. Bruce didn't just move faster than cameras could easily capture. He thought faster than conventional wisdom could keep up with. And that's the real unbelievable moment. Not the physical speed that shocked a television studio, but the intellectual courage that inspired millions to question their own assumed limitations and discover what becomes possible when you honestly pursue truth instead of protecting comfortable beliefs. If this story inspired you to question your own limits and push beyond what you think is possible, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments. What impossible thing are you going to challenge in your own life? Your journey might inspire our next story. Thanks for watching, and remember, be like water, my friend.